Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled Short Your Tab and I'll Call Your Boss. Today my GM got the pettiest revenge on some rude-ass bar guest. And it was so satisfying. A group of guys sat at the bar and ordered some burgers. One guy neglected to tell the other bartender that he wanted to add bacon and pulled pork on his sandwich. The bartender asked if he wanted the stuff on the side or a new burger, and he said a new burger, but still wanted to eat the one he had. No problem. He explained he would have to pay for both burgers and said, it's fine. When it comes time to pay, the bartender cashed out his tab with the card on file with his permission, and when he got the bill, he was mad that he was charged for 2 burgers. The other bartender explained that he had to pay for both because that's what he asked for, and that his other burger was being boxed in the window. He made a scene about it, saying he didn't want the new burger now and wanted a refund. Our bar manager deleted the payment and gave him his new check with the one burger that he ate. He paid in cash for the new check, but left like $5 short of his total. Unlucky for them, our GM saw the entire thing go down. The guy who didn't pay his tab all the way walked out before the other 2 guys that were sitting. They also happened to be wearing their work shirts for a lawn care sodding business with a phone number on it. The other bartender said he didn't mind paying the $5, but my manager said duck that and called the dude's boss. Told him that he behaved very rudely and shortened his tab, to which the guy's boss replied, "That mother ducker." Within 5 minutes, the guy came back in with the $5 he shorted. Long story short, if you're going to short your tab, don't do it in your uniform with your boss's phone number on the back. The next story is titled, Sorry Dude, It's Only Been Me Here, and Trash Is All I've Seen. Not long ago, I was working at a marina, and it was a great job. I drove around a beautiful beach with my pooch on a golf cart, keeping an eye on things. When the shutdown happened, we stayed open, and as one of the only outdoor places to be open, we were packed. The vibe changed, and trash was much more common. People emptying their trash from their car in the lot before leaving, and got mad that I refused to open the gate until they took care of it. I had a lady call the cops and report me for kidnapping. The cop that showed up yelled at her more than I had. I'm at the beach one beautiful afternoon and noticed a family walking away from their picnic table. I realized they're going to the parking lot to leave, but had trashed their area. I'm talking pooped in diapers on the table. They couldn't even be bothered to roll up. I was triggered to the max, thinking how to approach the situation. That's when amongst the table of trash, I see an important-looking large set of keys. It was time to take a break. I was happily strolling to the beach shore, my favorite place to collect my thoughts. Random thoughts like how good my arm is after all these years. Good enough, I'm sure. I then went to go finish cleaning the most trashed area I had seen. As expected, some guy looking guilty and panicked walked up to me. Have you seen any keys around here by chance? I looked at him and told him I don't think so, but feel free to check the bin as I added a diaper to the top poo side down. He quickly came to terms that he wasn't getting them back, but he watched me continue to clean his mess to be sure. I would look at him smiling as we both knew I was in too good of a mood for the task at hand. He couldn't even be mad, knowing he'd have them had he cleaned up after himself. Probably knew he'd have done the same. I wanted him to accuse me so I could troll him more, but he was smart enough. They were in the parking lot for hours waiting around. I enjoyed every time I checked to see that they hadn't left yet. The next story is titled, Neighbors Use My Property as a Camping Ground and Burn Down My Field. Don't mess with a farmer. I have farmland that I am proud of and manage all by myself. I work long and hard hours, so I don't have a ton of patience for people that want to mess with me. One part of my land next to my fields isn't used much, and instead it's just grass and a ton of trees. It doesn't always look like it, but it is part of my farm, and I don't let people really go onto it. Some people have asked for use or even to rent out that spot, but since it's close to fields and livestock, I tell them that they can't. I've had a few instances of people genuinely not knowing and ended up on that part of my land. I don't get mad at them, I just explain that it is part of my farm and please get off it. One guy told me that I should put up a sign so people realize that the farm started and they should turn around. I thought that was smart, so I built a sign thinking that it would eliminate the problem. It lessened it, but I overestimated the population's ability to stop and read a sign instead of just ignoring it. My next solution was just to build a fence and put a sign on that, so it made it clear as day to everybody that my property was off limits. I did have one group of neighbors that I had spoken to many times about this, and for them, I really had lost any patience. They knew very well that it was my land and they couldn't be on it. I kicked them off at least 3 times in the past as they always wanted to use that area for parties and things like that. I just wasn't comfortable and figured that with the fence it would be another problem solved. Instead, the group came onto my land again, and this time I noticed they had brought tents and sleeping bags. It was late and I wanted to go to bed, but I wasn't going to ignore the fact that a group was using my land for camping and had started a bonfire. At first, I saw only the fire and went worried something was serious until I saw who it was and knew it was the same idiots. I kept telling them to stay off my land. Me. I told you last time that you can't party out here. Back up and leave. Neighbor. Oh, come on, it's just an empty area of land. Anybody should be allowed to use it, and just because you put a sign and fence saying it's yours doesn't make it true. Me. The area is part of my farm, and I'm telling you one last time to get out of here before I call the cops on you. Do you realize how dangerous a bonfire here is? You have 10 minutes to put it out and pack up, or I'm going to make sure you leave in a police car. Neighbor, go back to your little farmhouse and leave us alone. If the cops come, I'm going to tell them how your signs are fake. I went back to the house and contemplated calling the cops or not. Something else made the decision for me as I saw the fire. It had spread over to one of my fields, and they had no control over it. I called the police and the fire department, who came over and put out the fire before it could do any more damage. I told the police how the group had started the fire, and I told them to get off my property, but they wouldn't listen. I wanted them all arrested for trespassing and destruction of property. My neighbors didn't take that well and were trying to say that it wasn't my land, but the police weren't having it. Even accidentally setting my field on fire was enough for them to all get arrested that night. I was just lucky that the fire didn't spread any further to my barn. My animals were woken by the commotion and clearly upset and stressed about everything. I slept with them in the barn that night and waited until the police contacted me about what we were going to do with my neighbors. In the meantime, I had to assess the area they destroyed and to see what kind of damage had truly been done. The first thing was they cut a hole in my wire fence to get into my land in the first place. Something I hadn't even thought about the night before. Then I went to my field and saw that the entire crop was destroyed by the fire. Even the ground was ashen and probably wouldn't be usable for a while because it had to heal. The fire destroys the nutrients in the soil itself, which is a huge problem. I was going to be out about $150,000. Now I might be a farmer, but I'm not stupid and know that they are liable for the damages that they caused. I took them to court, and they didn't seem intimidated because they had a big fancy lawyer. What they didn't know was not everybody in my family was a farmer, and in fact my cousin was a big lawyer himself. First, I found out they were trying to sue me back for their damaged property since their tents and sleeping bags were also burned in the fire. I couldn't believe it. They really thought they could try shifting the blame onto me. Their story was basically the area I was claiming as farm was a public camping property, and I had harassed them to leave. Then I started a fire to burn them out and almost killed them. Once again, I have no patience for people like these neighbors and wanted to teach them that messing with a farmer is a bad idea. I presented the court with a land assessment proving it was my property, my fence, and the sign warning people to stay off it. It was my property, as well as camera footage. that they were the ones camping on my land. One tried to interrupt, saying they had my permission, but the judge shut them up and let my side continue. We had the police report that showed they got taken away for trespassing, and the fire department report that showed the fire was spread from a bonfire right by their tents. Then I showed my assessment of damages, and when I dropped the price tag, that was when the neighbors started to get nervous. They started to complain that a farm plot wasn't worth that much, and I was making up figures. I had an expert come out and assess it through on my end, while they didn't even have any farming knowledge of what a crop is worth or how soil damage even works. Between the three neighbors, they were going to have to pay me the full amount. Now, that was in civil court, but I think the state was also pressing charges because they don't like people starting fires and wanted to try and make an example out of them. They didn't end up going to jail, but did pay me the money they owed me. I got a new fence and sign warning people that this was my land, and if they trespass, police would be called. It might sound harsh to people who don't know why, but I really don't care. All that matters is my land stays safe, and those neighbors stay far away from me and the farm. They are just lucky none of my animals got hurt because I would have made sure they ended up in jail if that happened. The money will help me repair the land and keep myself afloat until the new crop is ready for planting. Never mess with a farmer, though, because most of us do not want to be messed with. And if you want to start a fight, we can promise to end it. TLDR. Neighbors camp on an area of my property that I have repeatedly marked as mine and even put up a fence. They refuse to leave, and when I go to call the police, I see their bonfire has spread out of control. Police and fire department arrived to put out the fire, and I see that it's destroyed one of my crop fields. They are removed from my property, and I sue them for field damages that amount to $150,000. They think in court they can turn it around on me, but I destroyed them, and they must pay me the money. I build a new fence and make it clear that if people come to my land, I'm going to call the cops on them. The next story is titled, Beware the Quiet Man. This happened some years ago at my old workplace. TL, team lead, pettiness supreme. Sup, TL's nightmare boss. Manager, Sup's boss. Director, everyone's boss. TL was a very smart and patient man, so for him to do what he did, he must have been on his absolute last duck to give. Sup dumped a lot of her work on him, while she took all the credit for said work in their weekly meetings with department heads. However, when something did go wrong, it was all his fault. She made sure not a single person ever dared to think she could possibly be the one to blame. Spectacularly backfired, she once again threw TL under the bus. Beware the quiet man. TL patiently waited until Sup left for a 2-week vacation that she had planned and saved for a year. That Monday, her first day of vacation, he went into work, boxed up his things, and told the manager he was done. Manager scrambled to try to get him to stay because he was just that good at his job. Both the manager and the director were dependent on him for a lot of reports and analysis. Plus, with Sup away, they would be responsible for the tedious day-to-day ops tasks as well. TL said nope and walked out. A day of missed work on his and Sup's parts would snowball like crazy. So the director called Sup and told her she needed to cut her vacation short. She couldn't come back right away, so when she did, about a couple of days later, not only did she lose out on the money she had already paid for her vacation, but she also had to pull overtime to catch up. Icing on the cake, she was salaried. The last story is titled, Be an All-Around Mean Girl in High School. I'll run your performance. When I was in high school over 10 years ago, there was a girl, now titled Mean Girl in my grade, that just made it her hobby to bully other kids. The typical make fun at anyone's interest that aren't mine kind of bullying. Ironic, given how she got into some of the same hobbies she made fun of after class graduated. Anyway, at my high school, we had a talent show theme performance towards the end of the year, around November, December. The entire show would have an overarching theme being performed by students, and between those theme performances were other students doing their own talent stuff. Mean Girl got in as her own performer. I wanted to participate, so I joined the backstage crew helping with lights and sound. Now, this wasn't with any malintent at first. Honestly, it was fun learning what certain buttons were for in the lighting sound control room. As a non-senior at the time, I couldn't be alone in the control room, but I provided support to the senior who coordinated what buttons to press in time with the sound team, who had their own buttons across the room. After day 2 and 3 of the 4-day show, watching the same performances and coordinating button pushes, the senior I was supporting had to take a day off to take care of some family issues, so I had to man the lighting buttons myself. The sound control senior kept reiterating how important it was to make sure our button presses were in sync, and they were, till the next performance came up. It was Mean Girl and her 2 friends about to do their song and dance. At the spur of the moment, I ducked up the synchronization between light and sound so bad, the 3 girls honestly lost their desire to continue the performance mid-song. Shortly after the whole show ended, the teacher in charge got me on freaking out about the duck-up, but honestly, it was amusing. I suffered no consequences, so that was a nice cherry on top of the embarrassment that Mean Girl felt after the show. Duck her, IMAO. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.